markets or subsidizing large companies. We need to invest in European capacity. We need to protect critical infrastructure and to ensure democratic control of technologies that affect the lives of millions of citizens. In order to move forward, we need to find our own autonomous resources. We believe in a digital tax, a tax on digital services. According to estimates from the European Commission, this could bring in 5 billion euros of revenue a year. So we need to tax large technology companies to help promote our own technological sovereignty.
Thank you. Mr. Lagodinsky.
Dear colleagues, dear Vice President, it's serious, and I think many don't understand it. It is serious. What we've seen just a couple of days ago is the first time that the kill switch was used. If needed, the United States can switch off 90% of the world from its frontier models. And frontier models are no more business models. They are war models and defense models, and this must be clear to everyone. So what should we do? Number one, strategy, strategy, strategy. Gigafactories. What's happening with them? Do we have special gigafactories for defense purposes? How will we deal with the models that will be there at the end? Number two, compute, compute, and equity, equity. I applaud the Commission's efforts. I know about the 800 billion which are planned, but where will we get them? Most of this is private money, and this should be made sure that this money will materialize. And number three, standards, standards, standards. We don't want the backlash as we see in the United States with computer centers. Yes, we need computer centers. Yes, we need more compute, but it should be sustainable. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Before opening the catch-the-eye procedure, I'll give the floor to the Vice President of the Commission for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, honourable members, for this, I think, very encouraging and lively debate, because you have illustrated also very well that why tech sovereignty is so crucial at this time and age. Many of you was very much underlining how important it is to build up our own capacity on AI, and I very much, of course, agree. We have also great strengths here, because we have, for example, 30% more AI engineers per capita than USA, so we have a great talent pool, and also we have 8,000 startups which are developing and training AI. But one big obstacle for these companies has been that they haven't had access to computing capacity, and that's why it's so important that now we are investing together with our member states to 19 AI factories, and we are able to open up this computing capacity for our startups to train AI models in Europe. And also in very, very short time, we will now open also the official call for those gigafactories, and then we will be able to have even much more computing power. But AI factories, it's not only about computing power, it's also bringing together high-quality data sets to train AI and also talented people. And here I also want to encourage Parliament also to proceed with our digital omnibus, because we have to also clarify the rules to access to data, because this is needed to train and develop AI models. Also encouraging in developments we have seen in the businesses, because in last year our AI uptake among our businesses in Europe, it was increasing already 50% in last year. But still we have to work, especially with our key industrial sectors and public sector, to support them also to uptake and use AI. So I want to very much assure you that the technological sovereignty package we have proceed, it's not only about statement of ambition, it's really concrete action plan, and the work is already ongoing. And then just a small notice about these very capable AI models which are now coming to the markets. We are also working with the concrete list of actions also, that what is needed to address the new cybersecurity threats with these new capable models. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Vice President. I open the catch-the-eye procedure. I can't give the floor to everybody. I'll give preference to those who haven't spoken yet.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, colleagues, according to estimations, we'll need 5 to 10 years in order to stop lagging behind other countries that are doing well in artificial intelligence. But I think that we need sovereignty in order to develop artificial intelligence and technologies that would be also to the benefit of our citizens. We have to take into account our interests, the interests of our companies, because we can't build our future on the supposition that we'll always have these technologies available and without any political risks. But this does not mean that Europe needs to do everything on its own. No, it simply means that we should not be without our proper means, and we should not allow Europe to become somebody's digital colony. It's not only a question of sovereignty, but also...
Thank you very much. Mr. Lopez Aguilar.
Vicepresidenta Vikkunen,
Madam Vikkunen, the programmed strategic autonomy requires, of course, a whole series of regulation, a whole series of rules, like a CHIPS Act, which creates a balance between competitiveness and security with technological infrastructures, which will be for Europeans there. But the most important thing of this particular initiative is the mobilization of investments of these 5 billion euro in order to close that particular digital gap, which we have fallen victim of. We need that for the development of AI. Otherwise, we fall victim to China. If we want to be realistic and if we want technological sovereignty to exist, those billions are absolutely imperative. And it has to be included in the next MFF. And that is something which is, once again, indispensable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duncan.
arvoisa
President, there was a time when the Nokia 3310 ruled the world. Its durability and reliability were legendary, and the legend lives on. Since then, Nokia's mobile phone business has declined, and a recurring theme in the Finnish economy is this: where will we get a new Nokia? This answer can be answered partly when we look at what is being asked in the West. The question is, where will we get secure data networks? A possible supplier is the Chinese giant Huawei, which has led to fears of espionage. In raw materials and production, we have handed over our keys to the Chinese dictatorship. This has been a huge act of stupidity. If we allow a network company with ties to a dictatorship to infiltrate us, that is already a life-threatening act of stupidity. We have another option. It is Nokia, the company that developed the 3310 phone and has grown into a Finnish network company.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, Madame la Vice-Présidente Exécutive Européenne.
Thank you very much, President, Vice President. It seems Washington has unplugged us. The most powerful AI model from Anthropic has been deactivated for all non-Americans based on some fluid concept of national security. Now, the kill switch we were all worried about has now become a reality. It seems almost comical from an American government that is anti-regulation to try and put these controls in place. Now, it is concerning because this is done in a very arbitrary way without any consultation, without any warning. Now, Europe just looks on. It is a digital vassal. The question is simple. Are we going to wait till all our infrastructure is cut off, our hospitals, our transport? Europe has the talent, the money, the market. What we are lacking is political will to stop this American march when it comes to AI. I talked in 2022 about a Buy European Tech Act. People laugh, but now everyone's talking about European preference. Let's go even further to really boost our companies with fresh money. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker, Mr. Oliveira.
Obrigado, Presidente. Senhora Comissária Virkkunen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you very much, Vice President Virkkunen. Indeed, we need greater cooperation on all fronts, particularly within the framework of a multifaceted approach. That's what we need, essentially. We don't need this capitalist, if you like, difference or disagreement that has existed in order to reach a solution. What we need is to solve the problems that affect citizens. We have to make sure that all is there in order to guarantee peace for all and social welfare. If we give in to the multinational corporations, then we will not achieve anything. We'll enter into that logical downward spiral of the market. And where we end up, death and war will be the result. All countries have to promote technology, technological independence, and for that reason we have to decouple ourselves from the United States on this particular front. And this is the position of Portugal against France and Germany on this front.
Thank you very much for this animated debate with all the blue cards. That's the end of the debate. And the next item on the agenda is the Commission statement by the Vice President on achieving the role of the EU in efforts for peace and stability throughout the Middle East after the announced deal between the US and Iran. I'd like to remind speakers that, given the test measures currently in place and the fixed end time of the debate, strict observance of speaking times will be required. I'd like to welcome the High Representatives and Vice President, Ms. Callas, and I have the pleasure to give her the floor.
Dear President, honourable members, for the past 2 days, there have been grounds for cautious optimism regarding the situation in the Middle East. The announcement of the deal between the United States and Iran to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz could be a breakthrough. It has the potential to create space for deeper talks on other critical issues, including Iran's nuclear program and regional stability. While the details regarding the scope and timeline of the MOU are still emerging, one thing is clear. For any settlement to be sustainable, it must be fully consistent with the international law, and implementation must be verifiable. The Strait of Hormuz has to become again open and toll-free. I commend the mediation efforts led by Pakistan and Qatar, as well as the constructive engagement of Oman, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Egypt. Their diplomacy has been essential in preventing an all-out war and arriving at the deal. Honourable members, in recent days I've been speaking with many of my counterparts from these countries to explore how the EU can contribute to the next phase. From economic leverage and technical expertise on nuclear issues to broader diplomatic engagement, the EU stands ready to support a sustainable resolution that advances regional stability while protecting our interests and security. It is evident, however, that the most difficult phase of this process still lies ahead. The EU rejects any measures that would impose additional costs to the maritime shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Moreover, we coordinate with partners worldwide to maintain a cohesive front against any attempt to limit freedom of navigation and weaken international law. Just last week, the Council adopted new listings targeting those involved in Iran's actions threatening freedom of navigation. In parallel, our defensive naval operation Aspides continues to protect shipping in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, another key area to assert the freedom of navigation. Yemen's Houthis continue to pose a dangerous threat to shipping. And this is why we now have a record number of ships on patrol in the area, and we will remain vigilant. Beyond Iran, the situation in Lebanon remains highly fragile and requires continued international attention as a comprehensive deal is implemented. The ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel must hold as it is an opportunity to end the conflict, give diplomacy a chance, and create the conditions for sustainable de-escalation. We will continue to support the Lebanese authorities, in particular in their determination to disarm Hezbollah. Civilian populations in Israel and Lebanon deserve peace and stability. We must also maintain our full attention on the situation in Gaza and in the West Bank. Israel's latest plan to rapidly expand West Bank settlements are not in line with the international law and further undermine the prospects of a two-state solution. Regarding the trade with illegal settlements, yesterday at the Foreign Affairs Council, a large number of member states called for concrete proposals from the Commission, and several said that they would want to work on proposals which give clarity on different possible ways forward. I will convey this request at the College meeting and ask the Commission to prepare, ahead of the next Foreign Affairs Council, a list of options for possible trade measures, including measures aimed at preventing imports of goods originating from illegal settlements. I will also seek the Commission assessment on the scope of issues related to the rules of origin, another point raised by the Member States. The EU remains steadfast in its support for the two-state solution as the only viable path to sustainable end to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and to lasting peace and security in the Middle East. Regional normalization is a powerful incentive and should be accompanied by progress between Israelis and Palestinians. We see no progress in the implementation of the Gaza peace plan, but the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is growing. We cannot wait longer. That is why the EU calls for the immediate and unhindered flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza and will support early recovery as soon as conditions allow. Hamas needs to decommission its weapons, and border crossings need to be reopened fully, in line with the comprehensive plan. Dear President, honourable members, from Gaza to Lebanon, from Red Sea to the Strait of Hormuz, the EU will continue working with all partners to advance peace, security and prosperity for the benefit of our citizens and the people of the Middle East alike. I thank you for your support and look forward to the debate. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank für die EVP-Fraktion. Thank you very much for the EPP. Mr. Lopez Istor is right.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Madam Vice President. The markets are happy, oil industry is happy, but supporters of the Iranian regime are the happiest. Let me tell you in business language that is now so fashion what is really happening. We are confronted with a classical negative business model. I create the problem, I give you the solution. Well, I have news for you all. The problem is there, and this case, this ceasefire is a patch, it's not the solution. The theocratic regime in Iran is alive and kicking. In classical economical terms, this is unfinished business. Not only they survive, but they have learned how to use the Strait of Hormuz as a hostage. And now, as internet and communications are open between Tehran and its proxies, a campaign of terrorist attacks is to be expected in Israel, Gulf countries, and ladies and gentlemen, here in Europe. For the Mullah regime, timing was essential. They don't have midterm elections, they don't care about markets, and they don't care about human loss. Yes, they have sustained heavy losses, but remember, the real Iranian army is not in Iran, it's with their proxies. Believe me, because I have experience in the fight against terrorism, democratic fight against terrorism in my country, Spain. In the fight against terrorism, or you finish the job, or the job will try to finish you and your democracy. There is no middle ground. This is a wake-up call for us Europeans, like the Russian invasion of Ukraine. To avoid what is coming to us, we must immediately coordinate our defence, intelligence and security efforts in this new Middle East scenario. Help our allies in the region, those who understand much better than us that we are facing an existential threat, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, Israel, etc. Maintain our sanctions against the terrorist elements of the Iranian regime. This is essential in this fight. and also reduce dramatically our dependence on fossil oil from the Middle East from now immediately. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank. Für die S&D-Fraktion spricht nun der Kollege Sanchez Amor.
Next is Mr. Sanchez Amor.
Decir las cosas como son tiene un valor.
So saying things as they are is very important, and you have to call things by their name, and that's why we have to call what's taking place, apartheid, what's taking place in Israel. It's very, very clear. So I think it would be good if this would be said publicly, for example, in this particular parliament, because in this distortion of reality is something which is extremely harmful, and it undermines our credibility. And I think we have to really make it clear that the High Representative can only express herself through certain channels, if you like, and through, of course, the agreements that have been adopted. That's why we need somebody who can really say things as they are. To expressing opinions is there's no problem about her expressing herself with regard to Russia. But it seems that there is a mincing of words in the case of Israel. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Tangier Correa.
Madam President, High Representative, Madam Kaya Kallas. Dear colleagues, the announced deal between the United States and Iran is being presented as a possible opening for peace and stability in the Middle East. But Europe must not confuse an agreement with peace, and it must not confuse diplomacy with weakness. If the European Union wants to play a serious role after this deal, it must begin by naming the real obstacles to peace with political clarity. Very important, on 5th of August 1980, Yasser Arafat, leader of the PLO, made the following statement. Peace for us means the destruction of Israel. We are preparing for total war, a war that will last for generations. We will not rest until the day we return to our home and until we destroy Israel. End of quote. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the root of the problem in the Middle East. It is called terrorism. It is called hatred, and it's called Hamas. It's called Hezbollah. It is called Muslim Brotherhood. Peace requires Hamas to be disarmed, Hezbollah to be declared terrorist in its entirety and disarmed, and the Muslim Brotherhood to be considered as a terrorist movement. And the financing of structures that live off the destruction of Israel must be cut off. Without that, no peace deal can work in the region. So yes, Europe should support serious efforts to reduce tensions, but support cannot mean naivety, or it means conditionality, transparency and enforcement. Peace will not be born from submission to terror. Peace will not be born from lies. Peace will begin when Europe says, not one more euro, not one more excuse, not one more inch of legitimacy for those who live off the destruction of some countries. That is the first step towards peace, and that is Europe's duty. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Für die EKR-Fraktion spricht nun der Kollege Kolz.
Next for the ECR, Mr. Coles.
Dear colleagues, reports of MOU between the US and Iran are encouraging sign. Even a rough framework is better than nothing, and we should welcome any step that reduces the risk of wider war. The devil, however, is in the details. An arrangement with Iran alone will not automatically deliver regional stability. Israel's security cannot be treated as afterthought in any final deal, and that works both ways. And yes, those who sabotage fragile diplomacy through reckless unilateral action must be held accountable. We must equally consider the Gulf states. They are not bystanders. Their cooperation will be essential to any durable order, and the European Union should invest more seriously in those partnerships to protect our shared interest in open sea lanes and regional stability. We are not watching this crisis from a distance, or at least we have been financially bleeding from this conflict, so yes, we need de-escalation. A de-escalation that protects our allies, keeps vital trade routes open, and ensures that Hezbollah, Hamas, and other proxies do not use diplomacy as a cover to quietly rebuild. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Für die Renew-Fraktion spricht nun die Kollegin Woutmans.
Next for Renew, Ms. Woutmans.
Dear colleagues, dear High Representative, 2 weeks ago in the West Bank, Sam, a 7-year-old Palestinian baby, was shot in the face by an Israeli soldier. He's dead, and almost no one is speaking his name. Sam is dead because impunity in Israel and the occupied territories has made the lives of Palestinian children expendable. Where soldiers and settlers kill without consequences, another Sam is only a matter of time. I wish I could stand here and tell you I'm proud, but I'm not. I'm ashamed, as a member of parliament, that we failed to prevent and to punish these crimes. I'm ashamed, as a politician, that there is no justice and barely a complaint raised about it. I'm ashamed as a mother that a 7-month-old baby can be shot in his mother's arm. And I'm ashamed as a human being that we ignore the cries for help. So let's be courageous. Let's stop looking away. We must ban trade with Israel's settlements, and we must expand humanitarian aid for the more than 3 million Palestinians who are dependent on it in Gaza and the West Bank. We owe it to some. Thank you very much.
Danke. Für die Grünen-Fraktion spricht nun die Kollegin Neumann.
Next for the Greens, Mrs. Neumann.
Sometimes honesty is the only way out, dear colleagues, so let's be honest. With Iran, there is a deal that they will start negotiating a deal. The Strait of Hormuz, which was open before the war, might reopen. In return, the Iranian regime gets sanctions relief and access to frozen assets while they continue to kill their own people. In Gaza, we have a ceasefire that is no ceasefire. In the West Bank, violent settlers are burning down what remains of the possibility of a two-state solution. Beirut is being bombed. This is the madness you get when no one cares about international law anymore. And civilians pay the price in Gaza, Israel, Lebanon, and beyond. And Europe remains painfully divided. Defending international law as we always have. That was Germany's bid during its campaign for the Security Council. No surprise it failed. But why not prove it now, at least in the European Council, Chancellor Merz, by applying international law consistently, sanction Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, stop violent settlers from profiting from privileged access to the European market, and keep the sanctions on Iran for as long as this brutal regime remains in power. International law was not written for times of harmony. It was written precisely for moments like this.
Dankeschön. Für die Linksfraktion spricht nun die Kollegin Boylan.
For the left, Lynn Boylan.
Yesterday, the EU Observer reported that as far back as 2017, the then Commission top lawyer was very clear. EU was legally entitled to suspend cooperation with Israel, such as Horizon Europe and Erasmus Exchange, due to Israel's violations of international law. Almost 10 years and the EU has refused to act. We have witnessed a genocide in Gaza, the annexation of the West Bank, entrenchment of apartheid policies, racialised capital punishment, 1,000 Palestinians killed since the ceasefire, and in the first half of 2026, 88 attacks against Christians and Christian holy sites, and not to mention the 1 million displaced civilians in Lebanon. Yesterday, again, the Foreign Affairs Council took no action because of some member states. So with all due respect to the German government, we are tired of hearing about your sensitivities. A heinous genocide against Jewish people perpetrated by an earlier generation cannot be used to justify an Israeli genocide against Palestinians. Your obstruction is making us all complicit. And finally, I want to raise the issue of a ban on settlement goods and services. Because where is Maros Sefcovic? Where is the proposal from the Commission based on Article 207 of the treaties? This is the bare minimum that we should be doing. The ICJ confirmed trade with the settlements is illegal. Now we need the Trade Commissioner to turn up, do his job and ban this illegal trade.
Dankeschön. Für die ESN-Fraktion spricht nun der Kollege Sell.
Next, Mr. Sell for the ESN.
We're talking about the role of the EU in the Middle East. We don't need to have this debate. We're not playing a role. In Washington or Tehran, they're not interested in what Ms. Callas or Ms. von der Leyen says. It'd be better if you looked at the tasks which are within your sphere of influence. Why haven't you been able to have a European peace plan for Ukraine? Why are 5,000 diplomats in your service, can't they find a diplomatic solution to the war? Because you don't have a plan and nobody is taking you seriously. You're a breakfast director and a very dear one. And the External Action Service costs us a huge amount of money without any use. We agree with the French government, and you don't need your service. We don't need a foreign minister or a foreign ministry. The citizens in Germany and Europe are called on to save. We should set an example and start where it doesn't cause any pain and where nobody will notice it in the Commission.
Das war der letzte Beitrag in der Reihe der Fraktionssprecher.
That was the last of the group speakers, and so now we go back to the Commission. Vice President Callas.
Honourable members, thank you for your interventions. First, on sanctions against Iran. They will remain. This is our economic leverage that we have to very carefully also take into account whatever is agreed. Otherwise, I mean, we have to make our own decisions. Then to the MEP Sanchez-Amor, I have always represented the European position. And it is true that in the case of Russia, we have a unified position. In case of Middle East, we also have a unified position on many issues, like, support for the two-state solution, support for the humanitarian aid, that the humanitarian aid should not be politicized. All these things also are asks to the Israeli government. But when it comes to the trade issues, we don't still have a common position, and that is what I'm also representing. To also UN and MEP Coles, I absolutely agree the fundamental issue of the Middle East is Israeli-Palestine issue. So it is true that all these other wars are related to this. If we don't have an agreement on this or normalization of this process, then we will have these wars over and over again. And there I also agree what MEP Wortmans was saying about accountability. I think these peace agreements do not address two fundamental issues. One is accountability. If you don't see anybody held accountable for the injustice that has been done to your family, then you will seek revenge and retaliation, and this vicious circle will just continue. And the other issue is the issue of refugees. All those people who have been driven off, West Bank, and they have nowhere to go. So really, I mean, this needs to be addressed as well. To MEP Boylan, EU is 27 member states, so it is also clear that we need to talk about our decision-making procedures, because the current world is showing us that we are not up to our task because we are not able to make decisions. And to MEP Sell, we have a European peace plan for Ukraine. I mean, it was discussed with the foreign ministers in Cyprus. It is very clear what is our plan. We are continuing also to support Ukraine and pressure Russia, and the peace plan we have in order to have a long and sustainable peace, so that Russia would not attack countries. But it's not the topic of this debate, really. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Das Wort erhält nun die Kollegin Nerudova.
Next is Ms. Nerudova.
Dear colleagues, President Trump is selling us his new victory. Let's summarize it. Iran before the war, an Ayatollah dictator in power, brutal repression of human rights, the Strait of Hormuz opened,
sanctions in force. Iran after war, another Ayatollah dictator still in power. Human rights abuses still ongoing. The Strait of Hormuz reopened. Sanctions weakened. And high energy prices for our citizens. Do you consider this as a victory? Me not. I consider this as a loss for Iranian people and for all of us. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Als nächstes hält das Wort die Kollegin.
Dear colleague and dear Commissaire, is the war in Iran really about to be concluded? I'd like to share this question with you because we don't have to fall into this trap. The agreement on the table is just a memorandum, 2 pages long, that agree on 60 days suspension. Just the right time for Trump, 2 months, to enter a voting campaign for midterm without having to deal with an unpopular war. The same 60 days will be helpful to Iran, as they already have said, to continue to pin down their process in Israel. Is this their way to continue to defend Hezbollah and to continue to maintain this level of mixing with the Lebanon war? So the main issues in this memorandum are not settled, especially the uranium in particular. At the moment, the only use of this agreement is the hope that the oil price will get down. So let's not get so excited. Iran and Trump looks very much in their sense of cynicism. EU has different values.
Dankeschön. Nächster Redner.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Tatch.
Well, so the agreement between Washington and Tehran, it's the terms of this particular agreement we don't know. So it's difficult to issue opinions about this right now. But a drop in gas prices, an increase in stock markets. But if the Ayatollah's regime doesn't collapse and those 90 million Iranians are not liberated, then what success is there? Their anti-Western agenda has been bolstered, and terrorism of an Islamic nature spread across the world by them as well. It's still there. It's difficult to celebrate when we know that they're still in place. Israel continues in war because it has to defend itself from its enemies, and its enemies are there. Madam Callas, who entered into this particular distinguished group of individuals with these particular this particular words that have been said as concerned Israel. We continue to be friends of one of those particular enemies in inverted comma parts. So the Islamic scourge continues, and in Europe we experience this as well. There are many accomplices as well. This particular war, whether it ends or not, after 60 days, whether there'll be further fire, it's quite clear that this is a much larger story, and Europe is going to suffer the consequences on its own territory. We have to fight against Islamism. Thank you.
Ist der Kollege Dünkinen.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Dünkinen.
Madam President, how naive can we really be? The Iranian regime won't become a democracy through hope. It will not even stop repressing its own people through hope. And the truth is, even a peace deal won't change these facts. I'll tell you how to achieve a stable Middle East in plain language. It starts by eliminating the source whose entire existence is based on fueling instability. The IRGC and the network of Islamist terrorist groups it funds, arms, and directs. If we truly want a peaceful Middle East, Europe has only one real solution: isolate the Islamic regime, expel its diplomats, and build a network of sanctions that will squeeze the terrorists financial flows. The real risk to global order was never the strikes against the regime. The real threat is the Islamic regime itself. Thank you.
Danke. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Andrews.
Next is Mr. Andrews.
Thank you, Madam President and High Representative. Back in May at the last plenary, you and I, you might recall, had a brief exchange about the problem of the mislabeling of settlement goods. And I raised this question with you, what could the EU customs authorities do about the fact that so many settlement goods are presented as made in Israel? And you replied, you said that exports from Israel are difficult to prevent in circumstances where there's circumvention, unless we go after the suspension of trade with Israel as a whole. So what has happened since then is that Global Echo have published further evidence of widespread mislabeling of settlement goods presented at EU customs authorities as made in Israel. So of 5,900 shipments that arrived in the EU, 17% contained settlement goods, far in excess of what has been reported thus far. So the question is, can we honestly deal with the question of settlement goods without first dealing with the question of the association agreement? The sequencing is really crucial here. And I think it's very clear that expansion of settlements are unlawful and we must stop supporting settlers through trade. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Söndal.
Next, Mr. Söndal.
Dear Chair, dear colleagues, I'm going to speak in Danish.
Maybe there is a peace deal between the US and Iran. Maybe not. We don't know. Maybe we're almost back where we were before all of this started. But things are much worse. It's very uncertain because Israel doesn't think it's part of the peace deal. And so the peace won't hold. Israel's bombing of residential areas in Lebanon won't remove Hezbollah, and it will weaken the Lebanese government. Israel violates the peace deal in Gaza. 1.7 million people live in tents amongst rubble and ruins. The health situation is disastrous. Hamas holds people in its iron grip. Israel's illegal actions in the West Bank are at a historical level. We should have sanctioned Israel many years ago, and it's time to act now. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Als nächstes spricht die Kollegin Hassan.
Thank you very much. Next is Rima Hassan.
Israël a déclaré ne pas...
Israel said that it was not involved in the ceasefire agreement and will still be bombing in Gaza and Lebanon. Now, I don't really know what the point of this debate is. We come to the podium again and again to hear the same empty words. We are debating the situation in the Middle East today. Who today can even talk about appeasement with any kind of credibility? The EU is politically and economically complicit with the genocidal state of Israel. Who can seriously talk about justice while at the same time arming Israel, maintaining the association agreement, placing conditions on human rights, welcoming representatives from Israel who are violating human rights? European leaders are complicit, and all of those who are with them are betraying those who have elected us. The truth is very clear. You cannot improve the situation as long as you protect and legitimize Israel. It's about speaking out against the apartheid regime of Israel. Thank you.
Schön. Als nächstes spricht der Kollege Volgin.
Our next speaker is colleague Volgin.
The US-Iran peace agreement was achieved through the great efforts of China, Pakistan and Qatar. And my question is, where is the European Union? Where is the European External Action Service? Where are they? We European citizens pay €1 billion to this service every year. And it turns out that its core activity, that is to achieve peace, is carried out by non-EU countries. And what is the so-called Europe's foreign minister doing? Oh, yes, she has much more important thing to do than work for peace in the Middle East. She is dreaming of how Russia would collapse. She and her service have done nothing to achieve peace in Ukraine or to pacify the Middle East. Therefore, voices are being raised at the highest European level to remove this service. It just wastes European taxpayers' money and works for the militarization of Europe. Peace has been achieved in the Middle East before the helpless eyes of top EU bureaucrats. These people and their services are absolutely unnecessary. Thank you.
Our next speaker is colleague Brown.
God bless everybody.
Niech Bóg błogosławi wszystkich. Amerykańskie imperium mówi o pokoju na Bliskim Wschodzie. Im bardziej tak się dzieje, tym bardziej oczywiste staje się, że toczy się wojna. I co ma miejsce, to to, że proces normalizacji przemocy wobec chrześcijan w państwie Izrael, w żydowskim państwie, które znajduje się w Palestynie, ma miejsce codziennie. Codziennie chrześcijanie katolickie
are being harassed, are being attacked, physically attacked, humiliated. That is regular. That is not something exceptional for the Jewish community. And this is the problem that this peace agreement, whatever it is not going to solve. You can solve it only by restoring the independence and security of Christians in Jerusalem and in the whole region. And the Jewish state is not going to take responsibility for it. We have to take this responsibility. Thank you.
Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Lopatka.
Our next speaker is colleague Lopatka.
If the US-Iran framework agreement is signed this Friday, the threats coming from Iran remain. The regime in Tehran is not only cruel and lawless towards its own people, but also towards the countries in the whole region, with its attacks and, of course, with its sponsoring of terrorism. As chair of the delegation for the Arab Peninsula, I would like to express from the European Parliament our heartfelt solidarity for the peoples of the region and the full support through all possible means, including through parliamentary diplomacy. Europe and the world cannot afford continuation of this war, which affects all our economies. We must urge all parties to exercise maximum restraint and return to meaningful negotiations.
Dankeschön. Als nächstes hält das Wort die Kollegin Insir.
Colleague Injir is our next speaker.
Colleagues, the Middle East is literally burning. In recent months, ordinary people in Iran, Gaza, Lebanon, and beyond have paid a devastating price for their reckless policies pursued by Netanyahu, Trump, the Iranian regime, and other autocrats and oppressors. We have now seen reports of a possible agreement between Iran and the United States. Any step that can, of course, prevent further bloodshed is good, but peace cannot mean forgetting responsibility. The Iranian people remain hostage to a brutal regime. Palestinians continue to endure immense suffering in Gaza by Israel. Across the region, civilians are paying the price for decisions made by autocrats and extremists, and Europe cannot pretend it has been powerless. Too often, EU have hidden behind procedures, claiming that unanimity, preventing actions, whether on suspending the EU-Israeli Association Agreement or designating IRGC as a terrorist organization, when what was really missing was the political will. It is time for EU and the member states to wake up and take actions.
Dear colleague Insir, there is a blue card by colleague Oliveira. Do you admit it? Please, 125.
Obrigado, Presidente. Senhora Deputada.
Thank you very much. You have your headphone on? So, Colleague Injir, we heard from the High Representative a position expressed which indicates that there was no attack in the Middle East. There was no attack of the United States against Iran, for example. This is something which had, of course, serious consequences and cost. It affected energy costs and so on and so forth. The situation was not explosive in the Straits of Hormuz before this particular attack. So how do you see this issue being resolved?
30 seconds for a reply.
Well, of course, there was an attack by the United States, I would say, at least. But we shouldn't even forget that the regime in Iran was and is not whichever regime. That doesn't give anyone around the world, not either the US, to act in violations of international law. So I believe that the US, EU, and other actors could have done much more, much earlier. For example, it took 2 years from the day we here in the parliament demanded labeling of IRGC as a terrorist organization to the day that actually the member state says legally it's possible. 2 years.
Dankeschön. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Bjoch.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Bjoch.
Děkuji za slovo. Vážená paní předsedající, vážené kolegyně.
Thank you. Madam President, colleagues, the current situation in the Middle East shows us that peace can't be taken for granted. The situation has shown how quickly a regional conflict can involve the whole world and has economic consequences. So I welcome the agreement between the US and Iran. It won't solve all the problems, of course, but it will stop the escalation of the conflict. But we have to ask, if we all agree that that's the key to peace, why is the role not playing a role? We should be sitting around the negotiation table. Often the representatives, the High Representative, fail to act. Various resolutions are being adopted in Parliament, but the action is elsewhere. We criticize Donald Trump and his conduct, but we don't offer our own solutions. That should be a mirror we could hold up. A difference between a policy that only comments and one that changes the world. Through words or such few words, we can't stop the missiles. We must be present, not just with words, but also with acts. Thank you.
By colleague Gonçalves, do you take that? Yes. So 386, please.
Thank you, Chair. On the 28th of February, the US began this Operation Epic Fury. And the goals were clear, as you have mentioned, to isolate Iran, to prevent a nuclear weapon proliferation, and to free the people. From blaming on NATO to Vice President Vance yesterday admitting granting $300 billion to Iran if they signed to long-term agreements, the same they already had under Obama's GCPOA, Epic Fury became epic failure. 7,000 killed, gas prices peaked, and the people of Iran are still under dictatorship. Can you at least please agree that making America great means making the world terrible?
No, I certainly doesn't agree with that. The thing is, yes. Obviously, the situation in the Middle East, it's not the situation we all want, definitely not. But if you compare what has happened last years, and even what happened in Israel with the terrorist attack, if there is a bully, like Iran is it, in the region, then comes the force. That's how it is, unfortunately.
Danke. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Razza.
Our next speaker is colleague Razza.
Grazie.
Thank you very much, President, colleagues, Vice President. Today, I think ought to be looked at as a positive day, because the forging of an agreement with the United States is at the interest of the world and at the interest of the West, of course. So I don't think that we can turn this particular debate in another direction without certain reflections. Certain people are uncertain about the consequences for Europe with this particular agreement. Europe is with the West, and it has to work together in order to work more effectively with our partners on the other side of the Atlantic. The European Union, with its member states, is a fundamental partner of the Atlantic Alliance. And we ought to understand that we have common objectives. But the Middle East crisis indicates something of great urgency, that on the South, well, there's a lot that has been done as concerns the East with the crisis in Ukraine and the situation developing there. But the southern front, the middle of the Mediterranean, we have a very, very major issue that has to be dealt with, and Europe has to be a protagonist on this particular front as well. Thank you. Our next speaker is colleague Al-Aslani.
Peace requires courage, peace requires leadership, and peace requires actions. The deal between the US and the regime in Iran might offer an opportunity for peace, but opportunities alone do not create peace. We have to act now. Economic and political leverage to pressure and to support peace, accountability, and human rights, and we have to defend international law always. Madam Vice President, I'm tired of watching old men destroy their international rules-based order. I am furious that they start wars, uphold occupation, weaponize humanitarian aid while they enjoy wealth, while they enjoy impunity, while they enjoy power. I am furious that always the others who are paying the price for this craziness. It's always women, children, persons with disabilities who never chose these wars, who never were in these rooms where these decisions were made. We have to act now. It's high time for the EU to put these words into actions. Thank you.
Dear colleague Al-Sahlani, there is a blue card by Mr. colleague Stier. Stier, yes, 672.
Yeah, Stier is fine. Dear colleague, I fully agree with you when it comes to respect of international law. And one of the first things to be respected is, of course, the UN Declaration on Human Rights that is systematically violated in Iran by a brutal regime. But that regime somehow has the support of permanent members of the Security Council that will block any action of the international community. So what the European Union can do, in your view, in order to protect human rights in Iran?
A very good question. Thank you for this question. I do believe that the EU and the member states together in the UN can push further for the reform of the UN, because UN has not served everyone equally. We see it in the global South, the global majority in the South, how they have been underserved, how their interests, their rights, their human rights have not been implemented, nor they have been guaranteed by all these beautiful declarations. We know that statements, press releases, and declarations do not stop bombs from falling. We know that they do not feed the starving children. We need to reform the UN. It is our only path forward, and the member states together can actually make a true difference.
Dankeschön. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Sartori.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Sartori.
Madame la Vice-Présidente.
Madam Vice President, it's important to say things clearly sometimes. The American president can shout about diplomatic victory, but nobody has been duped. The peace agreement simply takes us a step back, paying tolls on the Straits of Hormuz, for example. And what have you achieved? There's thousands of dead, massive destruction. The global economy has been held hostage. It is a very vague agreement that Europe is supposed to support, and Israel is already violating. And what are we doing to stop Israel's actions? We cannot sanction the genocide in Gaza, the occupation of the West Bank or the Lebanon. We cannot sanction a supremacist minister, stop products from the colonized areas coming into the EU, unable to stop war crimes in this country. History is watching, and it will remember the lack of action from the EU and the member states.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Botenga.
Madam High Representative, colleagues, this is an important member. The most powerful armies in the world managed to stand up. Israel haven't been able to beat Iran. They've managed to stand up to illegal react, and there's a chance for peace. That could give an opportunity for life, a quality life, good life, for the people in the war. We want to invade Syria, we'll stay there. We'll invade Lebanon, we'll stay that. We're having ethnic cleansing in Gaza and the West Bank. We can stop that. We have the power to stop Israel by sanctioning, by saying, we'll stop trading with you. You won't have the privileges. You won't have the arms or the money from Europe. If you do that, tomorrow the Middle East will be a better place. Thank you.
Dear colleague Botenga, there is a blue card by colleague Sieper. Yes? Yeah. 253, please.
Thank you, dear colleague, for accepting my blue card. I was wondering, do you really think that sanctions would stop Israel? Would it really stop Israel from producing weapons? Would it really stop Israel from waging war? And is this a promise that we should give to our citizens, that we can stop a state that is perpetrating violations of international law with sanctions?
Mr. Sieper, I am shocked. You support sanctions on Russia, right? What else do I need to say? I mean, your hypocrisy, it's so horrible. So what are you actually saying? I don't mind that the Israelis bombed the Palestinians. I don't mind that they bombed the Lebanese. This is hypocrisy. Once it is about measures against Israel, it's like, oh no, I'm going to look elsewhere. Yes, we can stop Israel if we stop funding it. 30% of their trade is with the European Union. Put the sanctions on that. Put them.
There is a follow-up question now, please.
Actually, Mr. President, as Mr. Botenga attributed a certain opinion to me in his reply, I would do a personal statement instead of a reply on the blue card, which fortunately within the rules of procedure allows me to elaborate a little bit more than just with the 30 seconds.
But please go ahead then.
Thank you very much. Dear colleague, I think you missed. First of all, I'm definitely not in favor of Israel committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, against the Palestinian people. And just for your information, I just met with young Palestinian and Israeli activists before this debate to discuss exactly that, a peaceful solution, a peaceful future for both people, both states. I just want to make this very clear. Also, I would be in favor of sanctioning Israel. So I'm not saying that sanctions are not a good idea or are not appropriate in this situation. I'm just saying you said we need to sanction Israel and this is our solution. I don't think that is the solution. In the same way as it is not the solution for Russia. If we would have only sanctioned Russia, the war of aggression of Russia against Ukraine would be over in Russia's favor already. I think we need to think about more than that. I think we need to think about things like reforming, for example, the UN Security Council, as the UN, as my colleague Abir said, stopped serving everyone equally. So I'm sorry that you felt attacked by my statement and my question. I was more asking, do you have any better idea than sanctions to stop what you...
Thank you. And as it was a personal statement, there is no reply to that, so thank you.
Oh, come on.
Yes,
Well,
you can do your...
Let him reply, please. Please
no,
let him
come on.
reply, Mr. President.
Look, if Mr. Sipa this is a personal statement, then there's no reply
this
to
is
that.
EU democracy,
yes,
right? I mean,
we are,
come
but
on,
we have a rules-based order in this house, okay?
Yes, maybe less rules-based order, more international law.
Okay, so the next person to speak is colleague von der Schulenburg.
Frau Präsidentin, Frau Vizepräsidentin.
Now, I do wonder why we're even having this particular debate in the European Parliament. The European Union doesn't play any role on the international stage, and it has no credibility in the Middle East. At one point, Mrs. Callas wanted to join forces with the Arab Gulf states to go to war against Iran and its ally Russia. Today, all the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, were at the Economic Forum in St. Petersburg. Saudi Arabia actually was the guest of honor there, so they don't care about us. And while Donald Trump, after 4 months, achieved an agreement in the Iran conflict through diplomacy, after more than 4 years of war in Ukraine, no results. A German Air Force general is fantasizing about airstrikes on Kaliningrad and the Kola Peninsula or Crimea, which would certainly trigger a nuclear war. We really don't need to have minesweepers in the Persian Gulf. We finally need peace in Europe. Thank you very much.
Von Herrn Kollegen Mulacik. Akzeptieren Sie die?
Do you accept the 590 left up above?
Sie akzeptieren die, ja?
So do you accept the blue card? Yes, okay, thank you.
In the face of escalation of the Middle East crisis, what is necessary is effective international diplomacy, especially the EU's diplomacy. Several days ago in the UN, on the 3rd of June, there was a vote where the Germans dramatically lost their race to be a permanent member of the Security Council. They lost with Austria and Portugal. I would like to congratulate the MEPs from Austria and Portugal because they will represent the EU in the Security Council, UN Security Council. So this dramatic result, this defeat of Germany, 104 votes, Austria got 130, isn't it a sign of a lack of trust in the dominating country of the EU, Germany, which has for many years been negatively influencing our foreign policy of the EU? What's your opinion on this policy?
Now, you know that I'm a critic of the German government's policy. I regret it even. I think Germany should be at the forefront of trying to negotiate peace. Even in peace, you always negotiate with enemies. And I understand why Germany has lost in the United Nations. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Kelly.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Sean Kelly.
Let's firstly get facts straight. A peace deal has not been achieved between the US and Iran. There is a memorandum of understanding, a framework for negotiations, and difficult negotiations lie ahead. Despite President Trump's words regarding what has been going on in Iran since the war began, one thing is clear. It is a different Iran, but not necessarily a better one. While the contents of this memorandum are not yet known to us, we can still say with some degree of certainty that Trump's announcement, "Let the oil flow," shows a narrow focus on energy markets. But the effects of this conflict have been more far-reaching than just increased prices at the fuel pumps. Israel has used the war to occupy more of Lebanon and have declared their intention not to withdraw. The nightmare is not over for the people of Lebanon, so the EU must work to halt Israeli expansion in the region through the annexation of Lebanese territory.
Dankeschön. Als nächstes spricht die Kollegin Jayoul.
Thank you. Our next speaker is colleague Jalul Muro.
Hello. I stand here today with a deep sense of sadness of having to gather to celebrate the end of a war that should have never begun. The unilateral and illegal attacks carried out by United States and Israel, that, by the way, you never condemn, have not brought democracy to Iran, and at the contrary, unfortunately, is reinforcing the regime of the Ayatollahs. This war have undermined the global rules-based order, shaking our markets and cost the life of thousands of innocent people. We can not only care about war when oil prices rise. This deal doesn't bring back the more than 3,000 Iranians who have lost their lives. It doesn't put an end to Netanyahu's annexations of Gaza and the West Bank. It doesn't end the climate of fear and terror in Lebanon, not disarming Hezbollah, and not ending the occupation of Israel of southern Lebanon. And it doesn't return to their homes 1 million Lebanese who have been displaced. High Representative, people are crying out to the EU for action, justice, and empathy. Start by developing the Middle East strategy that you told us it will begin the moment the war ended. We need you to count with this Parliament and to carry on international law as your banner. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Das Wort erhält nun der Kollege Leggeri.
Colleague Leggeri has the floor. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam President, High Representative. Of course, any military de-escalation is good news for the civilian population and then for our economies, which have already faced the consequences of regional instability when it comes to trade, transport and energy prices. However, we should be careful about our diagnostic here, because de-escalation is not peace. How can we believe in a sustainable peace when the fundamental causes of the conflict remain? The first threat to regional peace is the Iranian regime, a regime that oppresses its people, that finances Hamas and Hezbollah, that threatens Israel and is destabilizing the whole of the Middle East. It is the main threat for the stability of Lebanon in the form of Hezbollah. For decades, we've seen this threat to Lebanese sovereignty, a threat to the Lebanese people, Christians in the Middle East. The number one threat to maritime security is the risk of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. This would lead to a new surge in energy prices to the detriment of the European people. At the same time, in Paris, Mrs. Calachon, Noël Barrot and other European leaders are celebrating the first anniversary of the Paris Appeal and are committing to that even with the current instability. But what has actually been solved in a year? Hamas is still there. Hezbollah is still there. The Iranian regime continues its policy of destabilization. The Christians in Lebanon still live under threat, and there are still tensions when it comes to energy security at a global level. The EU is celebrating a year of declarations when the profound causes of the conflict still exist. Other European leaders simply want to have symbolic condemnation, even though there's still a lot of regional instability. There seems to be a confusion between communication and strategy. If you listen to some European leaders, they simply just keep repeating two-state solution and hope that the regime in Tehran will go away and the weapons of Hezbollah and the terrorism of Hamas. The diplomacy of the EU is not a magic solution. Peace means you have to deal with the causes of regional instability. If you only look at the consequences, you don't deal with the causes. To deal with this war, Islamic terrorism, you have to look at peace and security, maritime security, deal with the situation in Lebanon. These are the prerequisites for real peace. Thank you.
Danke. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Gerhard. In the Middle East and the broader region, there are today two different courses contrary to each other. On the one hand, we have the forces of instability and violence. On the other hand, those forces of security, peace, and development. There are extreme Islamic governments that are working together with different Islamic terrorist organizations, creating chaos. But there's the Republic of Cyprus as well, a member of the European Union, which is the key in the region in order to emerge from this chaos. Through each crisis, possibilities develop. One of those is the 3+1 possibility, Israel, Greece, Cyprus, working together with the United States, a form of cooperation which was created in order to strengthen, to create stability, security, peace in the region of the Eastern Mediterranean, particularly as concerns energy, natural gas, defense, the economy. In a period of great economic changes, strengthening the Republic of Cyprus and bolstering it is absolutely key in order to support, to defend European civilization. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Yar.
High Representative, Trump and Netanyahu claim that the strikes on Iran, Lebanon, and Palestine would deliver security. Instead, an entire region is in flames. None of the ceasefires so far have held, and civilians across the Middle East are paying the highest price. So no wonder everybody's a bit skeptical. And now the war is spilling into Lebanon. Beirut is under fire. More than 1 million people have been displaced. Hospitals have been destroyed. Children killed. Fighting terrorism certainly does not look like this. And Lebanon, therefore, must not become a second Gaza. There are talks of a lasting peace, but can these men that are gambling with the security of the entire world can be trusted? We will believe it only when the bombs will stop falling. Because if these talks fall apart, Europe can no longer be complicit. We must finally mobilize all the tools at our disposal, including the suspension of the association agreement with Israel.
Dankeschön. Nun spricht die Kollegin Montero.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is colleague Montero.
Señorías,
ladies and gentlemen, what is Europe celebrating? Iran is celebrating that they have won, and Trump is celebrating, even though he hasn't won, is celebrating as if he were an emperor with his gladiators in front of him. So what is Europe celebrating? Can we celebrate that we have stopped a genocide, that we have stopped an illegal war against Iran, that we have broken relations with Israel, that we have stopped the occupation in Israel, in Lebanon, sorry? No, none of those things we can celebrate. So what can we celebrate here in Europe? What are you celebrating, Ms. Callas? Are you celebrating Donald Trump's birthday? Perhaps we could sing him happy birthday.
To Trump, happy birthday to Trump. Happy birthday, Mr. Genocide.
Next speaker is the colleague Dialak.
Voorzitter, wie tankt bij de pomp...
Madam President, you feel these bombings at the cash desk because of the bombing in Iran, and now we hear there is a ceasefire, but the situation is fragile. We can't remain on the sideline because the consequences are bigger. It's not just about our prices at the checkout. We must learn from the situation. We must act. And we can only do that if we build up our resilience, invest in our security, and have a good foreign policy. Without these steps, we're handing over our security and our prosperity to others. But we can't afford that. Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Maniatis.
Madam President, High Representative, the situation in the Middle East continues to be inflammatory, irrespective of the agreement between Iran and the United States. The attacks of Iran didn't bring the desired results for Mr. Trump, but quite the opposite, created instability in the region for the world economy, and it strengthened the Iranian regime. The Israeli attacks on Lebanon create great instability in Lebanon and throughout the region, and the violence on the West Bank undermines any possibilities for peace. Irrespective of that, Europe remains absent, with the Council once again not being able to agree on the most simple things. This is, if what we do need at this point is a strong Europe in the region that will bolster the government of Lebanon, providing hope for the region, which will have the courage to defend international law and to condemn the violations of the far-right government of Israel and provide hope for the people of Iran for a better future as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Vondra.
28 member states of the EU by 2028. And the time has come to shape the history once again, together. So long live Montenegro and long live the European Union. Thank you very much.
Dear colleagues, we will suspend for 4 minutes when the vote will start at 12:30. Okay, dear colleagues, let's resume the sitting with the vote. Can I ask you to take your seats? Let's be on time. We start with a request by the ENVI Committee for urgent decision concerning the proposal on shipments of waste, export of mixed municipal waste for recovery to Switzerland. This is a vote which is a request for an urgent decision. Who is in favour? Who is against? Who abstains? It is approved, and therefore the vote will be held this Thursday. The deadlines are as follows. Amendments Wednesday at noon. Split separates and roll calls Wednesday at 7 p.m. Now we have the request by the Agri Committee for urgent decision concerning the proposal on the temporary support and payment of advances regarding the increased fertilizer prices due to the Middle East crisis. There's a vote request for an urgent decision. Who is in favour? Who is against? Who abstains? It's approved, and the vote will be held during the next plenary session. There's a report by Mr. Dominik Tarczynski on the request for the waiver of the immunity of Daniel Attard. We vote on the proposal for a decision. Who is in favour? Who is against? Who abstains? Okay, it passes. Is closed, and it is rejected. Now we vote on the provisional agreement. Amendment 62 by roll call. The vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. We vote on the draft legislative resolution. Amendment 63. Who is in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Amendment 64. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Therefore, the first reading of Parliament is closed. Now we vote on the report by Mr. Bernd Lange on the non-application of customs duties on imports of certain goods. There is first a proposal to reject the Commission proposal, Amendment 19. Who is in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. We vote on the provisional agreement, Amendment 18. By roll call, vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. The first reading of Parliament is closed. Now we vote on the report by Ms. Arba Kokalari and Mr. Michael McNamara on the simplification of the implementation of harmonised rules on artificial intelligence, the digital omnibus on AI. There's a proposal to vote on amendments to the draft legislative act. It's a procedural motion. By roll call, vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. We vote on the provisional agreement. Amendment 118 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. It's adopted, so the first reading of Parliament is closed. We go now to the a report by Ms. Céline Mar on the strengthening of the position of farmers in the food supply chain. It's provisional agreement, Amendment 149 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. It's adopted, and therefore the first reading of Parliament is closed. We vote on the report by Mr. Johan van Overtveld on the measures necessary for the implementation of the protocol on the financial consequences of the expiry of the ECSC Treaty and on the Research Fund for Coal and Steel. It's a consent vote by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. It's adopted. The report by Mr. Bogdan Ronca on the mobilization of the European Globalization Adjustment Funds for displaced workers following an application from Belgium. This is a Soliver. Amendment 1. Who is in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Let's check this. Amendment 1. Vote is closed. And it's rejected. So we vote on the resolution as a whole by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Now we vote on the report by Mr. Laurent Vince and Mr. Charles Goerens on European political parties and foundations. This is the 2026 report on the application of Regulation number 2025-2445 and on the activities funded. I give the floor to the rapporteurs. First, Mr. Vince, and afterwards, Mr. Goerens for 1 minute each. Mr. Vince first. Can you press the button, maybe? We'll see. Wait a bit. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, there has been no parliamentary debate on this resolution, yet it has already stirred some media controversy. So let us be clear about what this proposal does. It calls on the Commission to present a legislative regulation that addresses the financial shortcomings and ensures predictability for the European political foundations. The proposals we have put forward will benefit all European political foundations from left to the right. This is not a revolutionary shift, and it certainly does not compromise our strict scrutiny or transparency provisions. Furthermore, this has nothing to do with any recent findings of the Authority for European Political Parties and Foundations regarding a specific political party. Therefore, I kindly ask you to support the resolution, and I also call on the Commission to swiftly propose a revision to the regulation and on the Council to support the revision through speedy negotiations. I would like to thank my co-rapporteur, Charles Goerens, for our common work and the Secretariat.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to Mr. Goerens. 1 minute.
Merci, Madame la...
Thank you, Madam. How can we endanger the essential work of the European political foundations? We have a proposal which you have just been explained to about relating to the funding of the activities of European political foundations covered by the European budget. And if we increase this, we can end the precarious nature of these foundations. Secondly, we hope that the Commission will take our text on board and submit a legislative proposal. This time, we need something which is going to come very soon and drafted by the Commission, which will ensure that we properly justify the work carried out by these European political foundations to the benefit of Europe. This procedure relates to the European Parliament's legal initiative. It is not yet been decided to take a legislative step, but it is a step forward in that direction. I should like to thank my co-rapporteur for the work which he has done as well.
Vote is closed. Rejected. Amendment 11 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Amendment 1 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Amendment 12. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. Amendment 4. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. Amendment 13. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. Paragraph 20, Amendment 14 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. We vote on the original text by roll call. Vote is open. The vote is closed. Adopted. Amendment 5 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Amendment 6. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. Amendment 7 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Paragraph 21, original text by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Paragraph 22, Amendment 8 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. We vote on the original text by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Amendment 9. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. Amendment 2 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Amendment 3 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. We vote on the resolution as a whole by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. We now vote on the report by Ms. Hannah Neumann on the countering of transnational repression towards an EU strategy to protect Europe's sovereignty and democratic values. I give the floor to the rapporteur for 2 minutes. Wait, okay.
Now, dear colleagues, we all know how brutally authoritarian regimes silence dissent at home, in Iran, Russia, Venezuela, Vietnam, so many other places. But they also reach into Europe, right at this moment, also in your home countries. Chinese overseas police stations in Italy, Croatia, Germany or Ireland. Iranian operatives working with organized crime to plot attacks in Netherlands or Spain. Russian agents intimidating opposition activists on the streets of Poland or Latvia. Moroccan media networks waging smear campaigns to humiliate and sexualize dissidents online. Families threatened, bank accounts frozen, phones hacked, lives put at risk. The danger is everywhere, and all too often, those targeted are left to face it alone. These are not isolated incidents, dear colleagues. This is a deliberate and systematic assault on our security, our sovereignty, our democracy. And our response must be just as systematic. We have to join forces between the EU and member states, close the gaps between digital and security policy, between migration, justice, interior and foreign affairs, to name what these regimes want to deny, to document what they seek to hide, to protect those they target, to close the loopholes in our own systems that they abuse, and to impose consequences for what they do. With transnational repression, autocrats want to send a chilling message. You are nowhere safe. Our answer has to be louder and stronger. We will no longer tolerate such repression on European soil. This report lays out the plan on how to get there. Implementation needs to come next. So with this vote, dear colleagues, let's send a clear signal to dissidents, journalists, human rights defenders, diaspora communities. You will be safe, now and here.
Thank you. So we vote on Amendment 1. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Rejected. Amendment 2 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Paragraph 25, original text in 2 parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Second part. Vote is closed. Adopted. Paragraph 26, original text in 2 parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Vote is closed. Adopted. Paragraph 38, original text in 2 parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Vote is closed. Adopted. Paragraph 41, original text by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Paragraph 45, original text in 2 parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who is in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Vote is closed. Rejected. Now, paragraph 60, original text in 2 parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Vote is closed. Rejected. Paragraph 61, original text in 2 parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Vote is closed. Rejected. We vote on the AFET resolution as a whole by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. So we move to the report by Mr. Zoido Alvarez on the role of trade in strengthening the EU's economic security. We vote on the resolution as a whole by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Now I have the report by Mr. Lucas Mandel on the reinforcing of development cooperation to address irregular population movements and their root causes in partner countries. I give the floor to the rapporteur for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner, dear colleagues, Europe is to be seen as the strongest soft power on earth in humanitarian aid, in development aid. When it comes to European businesses, European reliability is the largest on earth. And Europe will stay strong in these fields, and Europe will remain reliable to other parts of the world. At the same time, Europe has to tackle, as the report calls it, irregular population movements. And it's important that we put the one thing to the other, because no person on earth should be uprooted from its home against its will. And this is so important that we contribute to both, to development aid, to our soft power, as well as to tackling irregular population movements for the sake of the Europeans and for the sake of the people who must not be uprooted. I want to thank in particular the negotiators of the political groups for constructive negotiations, tough negotiations, of course, but for seeking for common ground and actually for achieving common ground. I want to thank everybody contributing to compromise, which led to a proper result, a stable result, and a strong message from this very European Parliament we can send today. That's why I humbly ask the colleagues in this chamber to give their consent to this report. Thank you very much.
Bravo.
Thank you, Mr. Mandel. Now, I'll go quite slowly here because we have a lot of amendments that have been withdrawn. We start with Amendment 1 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Amendment 9 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Paragraph 11, original text in two parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Paragraph 15, Amendment 10 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Original text in two parts. Two parts, I repeat. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Third part has been withdrawn. Amendment 3 has been withdrawn. Okay, I'm going slowly. Amendment 3 has been withdrawn. Paragraph 17, original text. We vote on this now. Who is in favour? Who is against? Who abstains? Adopted. Amendment 4 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Amendment 5 has been withdrawn. Amendment 11 by roll call. Vote is open. Amendment 11. Vote is closed. Rejected. Paragraph 27 has been withdrawn. Amendment 12 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Recital B, original text in two parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Recital G, original text in two parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Adopted. Recital I, original text in two parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Second part. Vote is closed. Adopted. Recital J, original text. Who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check. Recital J. Vote is closed. Adopted clearly. Recital K, original text in two parts. First part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who's in favour? Who's against? Who abstains? Check second part. Vote is closed. Adopted. Amendment 2 has been withdrawn. Amendment 6 by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. Rejected. Recital S, original text in two parts. Who is in favour? Who is against? Who abstains? Adopted. Second part, who is in favour? Who is against? Who abstains? Check. Vote is closed. Adopted. Recital U. Vote is closed. And it's adopted. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Well, hello everybody. We are going to restart the plenary. The next item on the agenda is the Commission statement, Russia's unacceptable provocative actions and drone incursions into Romania, the Baltic states and Finland. I would like to remind the speakers that given the test measures currently in place and fixed end time of the debate, strict observance of speaking times will be required. And we are moving to the debate. It will start Kaja Kallas, Vice President of the Commission, a High Representative. The floor is yours. Thank you very much. Please, we are going to start the debate.
Thank you. Honourable members, Europe has for years.
Please, we are going to start the debate. If you want to discuss something, out of the room.
I've been a member of European Parliament. I know after the votes, it's always the colleagues that you need to discuss with, right? But anyway, coming to this topic, Europe has for years faced cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and acts of sabotage and disruption. But the frequency and severity of these attacks is unprecedented. Recently, we have experienced also repeated drone incursions into EU airspace and the crash of Russian drone carrying explosives into a residential building in Romania. These reckless acts underscore the threat that Russia poses to EU citizens, regional stability and international peace, and its